I'm 25, and about 5 years ago, I created a budgeting process and system for myself that I've really stayed consistent with, and it's helped me hit some pretty big financial goals so far in my 20s. I became debt free, I took my net worth over 6 figures, and more recently, I bought my first house. So in this video, I'm sharing that exact budgeting process with you. I love watching people's budgeting videos because everybody does it a little bit differently. Like, it has to make sense in your brain. There's not one right way to do it, which is why there's literally millions of budgeting videos out there, and you're still watching this video today. So I encourage you, as you're watching this video, to take what works for you and leave what doesn't. You don't have to budget exactly like I do. My budget process to build a budget from scratch is only 6 total steps, and this is something that has worked for me when I was making very little money in college, and it still works for me to this day after increasing my income. So let's get into it. Here's exactly how to build the perfect budget from scratch in 6 simple steps. We're actually not starting in step 1 with building our budget, and this first step is something that I feel like a lot of people skip over. Step number 1 is to track your spending. Like I said, I think when people want to build a budget, they start with building a budget, but it's really hard to build an effective budget and an accurate budget if you have no idea how much money you're actually spending. For the purpose of this video, I want to define 2 terms for you because I think people mix these up and use them interchangeably all the time when they shouldn't. Creating a budget, or budgeting, is creating a plan for your money. A budget is very forward thinking. You're making a plan. What do you want to do with your money in the future? Whereas tracking your spending is tracking what has happened in the past or what's currently happening. What are you actually spending your money on? Track 3 months worth of spending. For example, over the past couple of years, I've met with so many people one-on-one to help them build their budget, and a lot of people will come to me and they'll have their budget pulled up and it'll say something like $100 for eating out or $100 for restaurants. And I'll say to them, I'll say, do you think that this is accurate? Are you only spending $100 on going out to eat or restaurants? They kind of come back to me and say, okay, that's not actually super accurate, because when I track my spending, I'm actually spending like $500 a month on restaurants. So if you currently have absolutely no gauge as to how much money you're currently spending, whether it be on subscriptions or going out to eat or shopping, it's impossible and a complete waste of time to start building a budget until you get that information. So what we're going to do, again, we want to get 3 months worth of spending, because 1 month is like a little bit hard to gauge whether or not that's actually accurate. So we're going to pull up our credit card transactions and our bank account transactions. Go into your credit card app or your bank account app, wherever you spend money, you want to get that data. And we're literally just going to list out all of our expenses. This sounds really overwhelming, especially to do it for 3 full months, but 3 months should realistically take you about an hour. You can do this in just a blank Excel spreadsheet or on a piece of paper, but you do want to start categorizing them out. So for example, grouping all of your grocery transactions. I'll use my template as an example on how you would do this. Go to the budget setup tab and input all of your categories. Again, you're not going to worry about the budgeted amounts in the budget setup tab just yet, because we just want to track our spending. So put in all of your categories, how you spend money, and then you're going to go into the monthly tabs and you're going to just start listing out all of your transactions. Doing this is going to give you such a clear picture on how you've been spending your money, and it's probably going to be a little bit eye-opening if I'm being completely honest. If you've never done this before, you're going to realize that it is much easier to spend money than you thought it is. Now that we have our 3 months of data and we know exactly how much money we earned and how much money we spent for the last 3 months, we need to figure out why we're overspending. If you went through this and you realize you're not overspending, like you make around, let's say, $5,000 a month after taxes, and you're only spending $2,500 a month after taxes, this might not apply, but I feel like for most people, you're going to go through this and say, okay, I earned $5,000 a month after taxes and I'm spending $5,000 or $6,000. You're probably feeling like you are overspending, if not in total, but in a couple of categories. Before we build a budget, step number 2 is to figure out the root cause of why we're overspending. When we're looking at potential root causes, I like to break these up into 3 root causes of your overspending. It could be a once problem, so your discretionary spending is a lot higher than it should be in comparison to your income. It could be a needs problem, your monthly fixed expenses, like let's say your rent is taking up too much of a portion of your income and it's making your budget too tight. The third one is an income problem, and it very much so could be an income problem where you're saying you're not really spending that much in your wants every month. Your needs might take up a big portion of your income. You're already living with roommates and you already drive a paid off car. Like, there isn't much room to cut back in your needs. Then it could be a situation where your income physically isn't enough to sustain your lifestyle, and that's an area that might need improvement. It's really important to think about this and get honest with yourself before you go into creating your budget, because let's say you are in a situation where you have a needs problem, your rent is taking up over 70% of your income every month. You can try to budget for your groceries or coffee as much as you want, but your rent is what's making your budget too tight, and that might be an area that you need to cut back on. You really need to get to the root cause before you try creating a budget, because you could can focus on those small things. But if the bigger things are the problem, then it's not going to be super effective in helping you reach your financial goals. Now we're on to step number 3, which actually is building our monthly budget. In my budget template, I break my budget out into 6 categories, which are income, needs, wants, debt, savings, and investments. We're going to focus on the first 4. So income, needs, debt, and wants. First, we need to get an accurate number for our income. If you're salaried or you make the same amount of money every single paycheck twice a month, it's a little bit more straightforward. You can just enter in your monthly salary or by paycheck. But if you have variable income, you're going to want to put in an estimate that is accurate enough so that you don't end up budgeting with money that you don't get. So since you did track everything for the last 3 months, you could use something like an average of the amount of money that you made over the last 3 months. Or I always like to say, just use a very conservative estimate. Once you have your income information, you're going to enter in all of your needs. So this could be your monthly fixed expenses like your rent, insurance, utilities. These ones are pretty straightforward, but as you can see, as you start entering them in, this leftover amount is going to keep getting closer to zero. Enter in your needs and then your monthly debt payments. So if you have a student loan, a car loan, if you have a mortgage, if you're in credit card debt and you're paying, let's say, $500 a month onto your credit card to pay off your credit card debt, after you enter in your needs and your debt, you're going to look at this amount left over before you start entering in your wants. With your wants or your discretionary budget categories, I think it is super important to be realistic. Like if you're looking at the last 3 months of spending and you spent $1,000 a month shopping, putting in $100 in the shopping category is not going to be realistic. But it's also important to be objective and look at that leftover number and say, okay, if I only have $800 left over, I physically can't spend $1,000 a month shopping. I have to rein that back. So when we're talking about building our monthly budget with our monthly expenses, we're looking at our income minus our needs, minus our debt, minus our wants, and ideally we still have some money left over, and I'll tell you why in the next step. Step number 4 is to estimate large one-off expenses that are going to throw off your budget if you don't save for them. So our monthly expenses, the ones that we have every single month or almost every single month, those aren't the only spend categories that we have. There are a lot of things throughout the year that happen, or more like large one-off expenses that could wreck your budget again if you don't save for it. What happens when you take a vacation, when you have to buy Christmas presents? So this step includes sitting down and thinking about, okay, what are those things that could happen in the next like 3 to 12 months, or even happening in the next 1 to 3 or 4 years that I need to start saving for? Because if I don't start saving for it, it's going to throw off my budget when the expense occurs. These could be things like, again, a vacation, Christmas presents, a new car, your wedding, moving expenses. The other big things could be if you're saving for a home down payment or if you're trying to build up your emergency fund if you don't already currently have one. In the budget planner tab, this is where you want to start listing out those savings categories. And then with that leftover amount in mind, this is when we're going to start filling out the numbers. So let's say you had $400 left over and you want to save $50 a month for vacations, $100 a month for moving, and $50 a month for Christmas presents, and so on and so forth. Even if you're only saving something like $50 a month for one of these savings goals, every bit helps, and it's going to make your budget way more consistent by saving for these large one-off expenses. Let's quickly talk about saving money because it might seem really overwhelming to be saving for like 6 different things at once and having to manage all of that. It definitely helps to get a savings account that helps you organize and automate your money. This isn't sponsored, but I do have a referral that I'll put in the description of this video for a SoFi high yield savings account. This is the high yield savings account that I use, and I love it so much because you can organize your money into these little buckets and then you can label them for whatever you want to make sure that every dollar in your savings account has a purpose. So if you're looking for a high yield savings account and you want to make it super easy to hit your savings goals, I will put the link in the description of this video to sign up. Step number 5 is the last category in your budget, which is your investing goals. Adding your investing goals into your budget, this is really only for any post-tax investments. So right now you might be investing by putting a little bit of your salary into your 401k. We wouldn't really include that here because the income number already factored in taking out your 401k. But let's say after all of your savings goals, this leftover amount still says, let's say $50. This could be a good place to set your investing goal of $50 a month and then automate that so that you don't have to manually invest $50 a month every single month. I won't get into exactly how to do that here, but I have an entire separate YouTube video on exactly how to start investing step by step. So I'll leave that here and you can watch that if you're interested as well. But that is the last category in our budget. So to sum up exactly what we did here is we took our income, we subtracted our needs, our debts, we set budgets for our discretionary spending, so all of our wants, and then finally we set savings and investing goals. Then what we did was we automated our savings and our investing goals. So we're actually paying ourselves ourselves first every single month, and we don't have to remember to manually hit our savings and investing goals every single month. And that brings us to step number 6 in my budgeting process, which is to continue tracking your spending to make sure that you're sticking to your budget every single month. Your budget means nothing if you're not sticking to it, but also did automate those savings and those investments. You need to make sure that the amount of money that you're spending is still giving you room to be saving and investing at those levels every month. Tracking your spending is super simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And the reason why I say that it's not easy is because it's a habit that needs to be built, and habits are inherently a little bit difficult to build from the beginning. Like I said, I've been doing this exact same process for the last 5 years, and something that has helped me build this habit and stay consistent with it is setting a specific time every single week to spend some time with my money. So for me, every Monday morning, I sit down for 10 minutes and I just spend 10 minutes logging all of my transactions from the week prior, so that by the end of the month, I have a very clear picture on exactly how much money I made that month and exactly how much money I spent. And those 6 steps are honestly all there is to my budgeting process. If you want to build your budget, I will leave the link to this template in the description of this video. Let me know in the comments if this method helped you, and happy budgeting.